When many designers talk about stripes, they tend to mention how much they stand out. The stripe is possibly the most noticeable pattern. The immediate and repetitive change from one color to another calls attention to itself, which explains why caution signs are almost exclusively striped, along with other things you need to see like lighthouses, signaling flags, and the old-fashioned barbershop pole. And so it's no coincidence that the most famous cartoon you're always trying to look for has a striped shirt. He doesn't blend in. The designer of the IBM logo said it right. Stripes attract attention. The visual power of the pattern possibly comes from the inability to distinguish a stripe's foreground from its background. There's something visually confusing about the layers of a stripe. Notice how every optical illusion or hypnosis video uses stripes. There's even an evolutionary theory that zebras wear stripes to confuse predators of their number and distance. It works so well, humans copied the technique for World War II battleships. And remember that none of these traits apply as strongly to other patterns. Checkered feels more orderly, plaid is less jarring, and spots have a clear foreground and background. Stripes are the most extreme. Stripes are different, and these unique properties of stripes have made them powerful symbols that have eventually evolved into signs of oppression, deviance, freedom, and daring style. No matter where stripes are, they are never subtle. My goal for this video is to talk about the theories of design and symbolism of the stripe in art, history, and design, and apply those ideas to the stripes in movies. The significance of stripes in cinema is actually surprisingly under-researched, but the meaning of stripes in art and design should apply to movies as well, if not more so. Michel Pastoureau, an author of a book on the history of stripes, did have one movie in mind when discussing the power of stripes historically. Spellbound by Alfred Hitchcock stars a man with a phobia of lines against a white background, a man with an actual fear of stripes. I doubt a movie could pull that off with any other pattern, and it just goes to show how the contrast of stripes has massive appeal to the eye of the filmmaker. If stripes can literally be somebody's phobia in a movie, they must mean something. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Historically, the natural properties of stripes gave them symbolic meaning in Western Europe, and their power at that time can't be underestimated. When a stripe-wearing Catholic religious group came to Europe from the Crusader states in the 12th century, they were ridiculed for how they were dressed, to the point that Pope Alexander IV banned all clergymen from wearing stripes. In the Middle Ages, when the type of clothing always indicated your social status, stripes pointed out the deviance of society, anybody who wasn't an honest citizen. In art, striped people are more often than not the jesters, prostitutes, executioners, or traitors. In a 12th century painting, God gives Adam and Eve a striped garment before they are expelled from paradise. In this case, the stripes indicate they have committed acts of shame and sin. Similarly, the striped bedding in this 14th century French painting shows the immorality of what they're doing. In an era where what you wore was a clear indication of your social status, the flashiness of the stripe meant you were a social deviant, and its meaning was taken very seriously. It was often even associated with monsters and the devil. This traditional perception of stripes made its way into the movies. Many deviant women in film have worn stripes. Maybe the most convincing example is how the Wicked Witch of the East is distinguished only by her boldly striped black and white stockings. That same year, Dallas in Stagecoach has a similar striped moment, and she's a prostitute in the movie.
Pleasant voyage.
Possibly originating in the penal colonies of America, prisoners also wore stripes as a uniform. Again, it's a classic sign of the deviant, and movies are no different. And while the stripe as a badge of shame continued, later centuries introduced different interpretations of the pattern. Starting in the 16th century, stripes shifted from being strictly diabolic into tamer, eventually positive meanings. It became a uniform for servants and found its way on textiles, integrating its way into the home. Most importantly, however, is the American Revolution introducing the striped flag as a symbol of rebellion. They took a pattern used for the prisoners of the American South and made it their battle cry, showing how they felt like prisoners under British rule. The French followed suit, and from then on, those in favor of the movement of freedom could wear stripes to show their support. Really, the stripe's meaning hadn't explicitly changed. It's still a sign of an outsider or a deviant, as the revolutionaries clearly were, but it's no longer exclusively negative. Movies show these multiple interpretations of the stripe. In some cases, the pattern is a sign of the delinquent. In others, they are worn on purpose to signal somebody unique. The dual meaning of stripes even shows itself in nature. A study of stripes in 2015 mentioned how many animals use them as a warning to signal an unpleasant consequence of an attack, while others use stripes to attract attention from a potential mate. So stripes can be equally good or bad. American cinema in the 1950s showed the rebellious meaning of the stripe coming to the big screen, with many high-profile actors wearing the Breton stripe in movies directed at teens and young adults, all worn by characters who don't follow the status quo. This movement also spread to artists, philosophers, and the Ramones. So with stripes also being worn as a point of pride, we see people using stripes to stand out on purpose. A classic example is the gangster. Gangsters actually wore pinstripes in real life, and that style made its way into the movies. Gangsters' outfits commonly have stripes to look flashy as they flaunt their wealth and status, to the point that some of them look tasteless. For the most crooked, over-the-top male characters, notice how crazy the stripes become. The kind of stripe also matters. Long, thick stripes seem to go to the flashy characters, but thin, sleek stripes look more fashionable. You could make the argument that filmmakers use bold stripes on businessmen to make them seem more crooked, but stripes can also look very chic.
Bold striped shirt calls for solid, colored, or discreetly patterned suits and ties.
The more pronounced the stripe, the crazier. Filmmaking has certainly taken advantage of the disorienting nature of the stripe. It's no coincidence that a striped cat is an illusionist, and the introduction to Psycho works because the imbalance of the stripes looks off, like the slicing of a knife. There's also a complicated relationship between stripes, children, and hygiene. Michel Pastoureau's study of stripes mentions how underwear and undergarments were completely white because the people of the Middle Ages saw dyes and coloring as a form of contamination, while whiteness was pure and healthy. As a result, no color ever directly touched the body. In the 20th century, however, the stripe became a way to add style to pajamas, towels, and underwear, while keeping some whiteness in the clothing. So in the current day, Prince George is always wearing stripes because it has become a symbol of hygiene. But there's also a little bit of the original meaning of stripes in that children are playfully deviant, not quite fitting in with society completely. And so some filmmakers use stripes to evoke a childishness to characters which is in its own way a form of deviance. Ever since the jesters and jugglers in the medieval ages, mankind has had an understanding that stripes can also look childish, silly, and funny. Now, I'm not saying that all the stripes done in movies were done with knowledge of the stripes' history. It's actually the opposite. Nobody had even considered the meaning or history of stripes until the last decade or so. What I'm trying to say is the design of the stripe naturally causes it to stand out. And so it makes sense that in movies where wardrobe is meticulously chosen, filmmakers subconsciously or consciously used that extreme change from one color to the next to tell us something about the character. Maybe they're downright evil, or they're a rebellious teen. Either way, the stripes help show they are a deviant from the status quo in some way. And movies understand this dual meaning. Think about the title of The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. In one sense, striped pajamas are a sign of fashion, comfort, and the playful child. But the audience knows the real reason his clothes were striped. The movie's title plays on our culture's multiple interpretations of the stripe. Juno is perhaps the most complicated and effective use of stripes I've seen in the movies. It's the pattern Juno wears most often, and it became her symbol in the trailers and poster art. It fits her character perfectly. She's playful, childish, and stands out with her sharp, over-the-top dialogue. But she's also a deviant as a pregnant teenager. She self-identifies as rebellious and has unconventional taste in music and style. She commands attention, both good and bad, and the stripes are the perfect companion to her character. But no matter what they're used for, stripes always stand out. They made Joseph's coat stand out in the Bible, and they complement Juno's uncontained wit. We're just starting to see more research into the symbolism of the stripe, and I invite you to look into it yourself. I recently noticed the evil gremlin is named Stripe, and it totally fits with the original association of stripes with monsters and how he's a deviant as the gremlin that's the most evil. I'm sure there are tons of other examples of stripes in movies out there I haven't come across. Check out nowyousseeit.blog/stripes to see all the examples of stripes I have compiled so far. If you think of any stripes in movies or come across any in the future, there's another link where you can submit the name of the film, who wears the stripes, and what the possible meaning might be in the description. I'll continue adding screenshots to make the first compiled collection of stripes in film available on the internet. Graphic designers have understood the power of stripes for a long time, even before there was any research on them. The IBM logo is a famous example, but you can also look at Adidas, Apple, and AT&T to see how companies use stripes to convey speed and going against the status quo. Professional logo designers are some of the few people who do understand the meaning of the stripe. One of the premier logo designers in the business currently is Aaron Draplin, a designer for Nike, Ford, and even the Obama administration. If you want to learn the secrets of great logo design, you can sign up for his class on Skillshare. Skillshare has over 20,000 classes on topics ranging from photography to business. The first 500 people to click on the link in the description below can get 2 months of completely free access to Skillshare. That's the logo design class plus thousands of others across cinematography, video editing, photography, marketing, and business. Thanks for watching, and a big thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video.